The human nanny found the leather-bound book hidden beneath the vampire princess's mattress while changing sheets. She shouldn't have opened it. Servants didn't pry into royal secrets. But something about the way Princess Isolde clutched this book during nightmares, the way she hid it with trembling hands whenever anyone entered her chambers, made Elena pause. One page. She'd read just one page to understand what haunted the deaf child who never made a sound. What she discovered in those ink-stained pages would shatter a king who hadn't wept in 400 years and reveal a love story written in silence that no one was ever meant to read. The Obsidian Court existed in perpetual twilight, where winter never loosened its grip and the vampire king's grief hung over the palace like frost. Elena had arrived 3 weeks ago, the 47th nanny hired to care for Princess Isolde in 2 years. The previous 46 had all fled. The princess doesn't speak, Lady Kasia had explained during Elena's interview. She's deaf. Born that way. 9 years old now. Communicates through gestures, mostly. Prefers solitude. The lady's voice dropped. The previous nannies found her unsettling. Elena had learned not to judge children by others' discomfort. When do I start? 3 weeks of navigating marble halls, learning the palace's rhythms, glimpsing King Theron from a distance, always moving, always occupied, yet never visiting the Eastern Tower where his daughter lived in exile. Princess Isolde's rooms were far from the court. The child sat by the window when Elena first entered, small hands pressed against cold glass, watching snow fall over gardens she never visited. Tiny for 9, with white blonde hair and translucent pale skin. She wore expensive purple velvet like a doll dressed by strangers. Her feet were bare despite the cold. "Hello, Isolde," Elena said, knowing the child couldn't hear. "My name is Elena." No response. Not even acknowledgement. Elena unpacked slowly, simple clothes, poetry, a music box from her mother. She moved deliberately, letting her presence become familiar without demanding attention. 4 hours passed before Isolde turned her head. Violet eyes, shocking, unnatural, marking vampire royalty, fixed on Elena with intensity. The eyes of children who'd learned that adults were temporary, affection conditional, love always temporary. Elena smiled and waved. Isolde blinked once, then turned back to the window. Progress. The king's distance. Elena established patterns. Wake before dawn, prepare Isolde's chamber, be present. The princess never looked directly at her those first mornings, but small signs emerged, shoulders relaxing when Elena entered, hands pausing mid-motion as if listening for what couldn't be heard. Isolde spent hours at her window watching gardens she never visited. She ate only when food appeared forgotten nearby. Everything stayed in perfect order, books aligned precisely, brushes at exact angles, objects in designated spaces. Control. When the world felt chaotic, children created order wherever they could. King Theron never visited. He asked about her. Elena heard Lady Kasia's twice-daily reports outside his study. The princess ate breakfast. The princess slept well. But he never came himself. Never opened that tower door. Elena glimpsed him only in passing. Storm-given form, tall, commanding, silver-touched dark hair, eyes like frozen lakes. Handsome as predators are. He never smiled, never lingered. Always rushing to the next duty that kept him from the Eastern Tower. Servants whispered. The king loved his wife so much it nearly destroyed him when childbirth took her. Held the queen's body for 3 days. Refused to look at the babe that cost him everything. 9 years ago, surely by now, some griefs don't heal. They just hide better. The diary's Discovery Day 21. Elena changed Isolde's sheets while the princess bathed. Her hand found something hard beneath the mattress. She shouldn't investigate. Privacy was sacred. But her hand moved, pulling out a leather-bound book, aged, worn, pages swollen with use. A diary. Not palace-made. Too rough, too simple. From human markets, sold for copper coins. How had a sequestered princess acquired this? Elena opened to the first page. Childish but careful handwriting. Asterisk. My name is Isolde Theron Nightborn. I am 7 years old. Lady Kasia gave me this book. She said I could write anything because no one would ever read it. She said sometimes it helps to put feelings on paper when you can't speak them. Asterisk asterisk, I don't have feelings anymore. Not really. But I'll write anyway because Lady Kasia was kind. Asterisk, Elena's throat tightened. She should stop. She knew she should stop. Asterisk, father came to the throne room today. I watched from the balcony. He didn't look up at me even once. I counted. 47 minutes. Asterisk asterisk, Nanny Margaret says father is very busy running a kingdom. I do understand. I understand his duties are more important than I am. Asterisk, I wish I knew what I did wrong so I could fix it. Asterisk, pages of careful script. A child's desperate attempt to make sense of abandonment. Asterisk, Nanny Elise left today. That makes 23. I tried to smile at her this morning but she looked afraid. They always look afraid. There's something wrong with me I can't see. Asterisk asterisk, father passed me in the corridor. I could smell his cologne, cedar and night roses. I tried to reach for his hand but he walked faster. He didn't mean to. But I felt it anyway. Asterisk asterisk, sometimes I imagine I can hear. I imagine father's voice saying my name. I imagine it sounds like safety. Asterisk, 5 days ago. Asterisk, the new nanny seems different. Elena. She doesn't stare at me like I'm broken. She just exists near me. It's strange. Asterisk asterisk, last night I had the dream again. Mother is holding me and I can hear her heartbeat. I wake up and remember father hasn't held me since I was 4. Asterisk asterisk, I wonder if it hurts him to look at me. If I'm a reminder of what he lost. Lady Kasia says I have mother's eyes. Maybe that's why he can't bear to meet them. Asterisk asterisk, better to wonder than know. That way I can still hope. Asterisk, Elena closed the book, hands shaking. Footsteps. Lady Kasia returning with Isolde. She slid the diary back, smoothing sheets with practiced efficiency. But inside, something had shifted irrevocably. A little girl who believed herself responsible for her own abandonment, writing letters to silence that never answered back. Small connections. That evening, Elena sat on the floor of Isolde's chamber and took out her mother's music box. It was a simple thing, brass with delicate engravings, containing a mechanism that played a lullaby when wound. She'd kept it for 20 years through poverty and displacement, because it was the only thing she had left of the woman who'd loved her. She wound the key and let it play. Obviously, Isolde couldn't hear it. But the princess looked up from her book, her attention caught by the movement. She approached slowly, cautiously, the way children did when they'd learned that interest led to disappointment. Elena held out the music box. Isolde hesitated, then took it, her small fingers tracing the engravings. Elena guided the child's hand to rest on top of the box, palm flat against the brass. Isolde's eyes widened. She could feel it, the vibration of the mechanism, the subtle tremors that translated sound into sensation. Her mouth opened in a silent gasp of wonder. Elena smiled and began to hum along with the melody, letting her throat vibrate with the sound Isolde couldn't hear. She took the child's other hand and placed it against her neck, showing her how the humming created its own vibrations. For the first time since Elena had arrived, Isolde smiled. It was a small thing, fragile as spun glass. But it was real. From that night forward, they developed a language of their own. Elena couldn't learn the formal sign language of the vampire courts in 3 weeks, but she could learn Isolde's specific vocabulary. The child showed her gentle touches to indicate tiredness, a specific tilt of her head for hunger, a hand pressed to her chest for fear. And Elena responded in kind, building a bridge of gestures and patience that let Isolde know she was heard, even in her silence. They established rituals. Every morning, Elena would sit beside Isolde at breakfast and eat with her, not forcing interaction but offering companionship. Every afternoon, they'd walk the princess's chambers together, Elena describing the world outside in writing that Isolde would read, her fingers sometimes reaching out to touch Elena's hand as if to verify she was still there. Every evening, the music box would play, and Isolde would press her palm to it, feeling the ghost of melodies she'd never hear. The princess began to change. Subtle things at first. She started eating without prompting, began leaving her window to explore her own rooms, even pulled out books she'd apparently ignored for months. Elena noticed drawings tucked beneath other papers, sketches of a woman Isolde had never known, rendered with heartbreaking precision. Her mother. 3 weeks became 4. 4 became 5. And Elena found herself falling in love with this strange, silent child who kept all her pain in a hidden diary and all her hope in quick, fleeting smiles. She also found herself growing angry. Because every day, King Theron passed through the palace without once stopping at that eastern tower. Every evening, Lady Cassia delivered her reports. "The princess is well, your majesty. No incidents." And the king would nod, thank her, and return to whatever duty kept him occupied. Adequate. As if loving his daughter was merely an administrative task. Lady Cassia finally explained over tea. "You judge him. You think him cold. I think him absent," Elena replied carefully. "He loved his wife beyond reason. Celeste was human. Against all counsel he bonded to her. The night Isolde was born, we heard him screaming. Not in joy. Anguish." Lady Cassia stared into her cup. Celeste hemorrhaged. Even vampire healing couldn't stop it. She held her daughter once, saw those violet eyes. Then she was gone. King Theron broke. And the child paid. The child reminds him of everything he lost. Every time he looks at Isolde, he sees Celeste's face. If he lets himself love her the way he loved her mother and loses her too, so he loses her slowly instead. By choice rather than fate. That night, Elena found Isolde having nightmares. The child thrashed, mouth open in silent screams, tears streaming. Elena gathered her close, held her until trembling stopped, whispered soothing words Isolde couldn't hear but seemed to feel. When the princess finally calmed, she clung to Elena with desperate strength. Elena made a decision that would change everything. The king's routine. King Theron kept rigid schedules. Dawn walks on eastern ramparts. 3-hour afternoon court sessions. Evening meals in private chambers, reports, then study until midnight. Never deviating. On day 38, Elena broke his routine. She waited on the ramparts at dawn. When Theron emerged, irritation flashed across his face. "The ramparts are closed to servants during my morning walk." "I'm not a servant, your majesty. I'm your daughter's nanny. And I need to speak with you about Princess Isolde." Lady Cassia delivers daily reports. Lady Cassia delivers administrative summaries. "I need to speak with you about your daughter, not your ward." His eyes narrowed, ice blue, dangerous. "You overstep." "Yes, your majesty. But someone must." A long stare. Elena understood why nannies fled. This vampire king could end her life with a gesture. But he was also a father who hadn't held his daughter in 5 years. "Speak," he said finally. "You have until I finish this walkway." 400 feet. Elena talked fast. "Your daughter believes she's broken," Elena began, walking beside him. "She thinks there's something fundamentally wrong with her that makes her unlovable. She's written over 200 entries in a diary where she catalogs every time you've passed her without acknowledgement, every moment you've chosen duty over her presence, every instance where she's felt like a burden rather than a child." Theron's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. "She's 9 years old and she's already given up on the idea that her father might love her. Not because she's angry, that would be healthier. Because she's accepted it as fact. As something unchangeable as her deafness. I provide everything she needs. Everything except yourself. That's enough." His voice dropped to a growl. "You know nothing of what I've sacrificed." "You're right," Elena interrupted, bold and foolish and desperate. "I know nothing of losing a mate bond. I know nothing of grief that spans centuries. But I know what it looks like when a child starves for affection, your majesty. And your daughter is dying of neglect you're too grief-stricken to notice." Theron stopped walking. They'd reached the end of the rampart, but he made no move to leave. Instead, he stood frozen, his hands gripping the stone battlements with enough force that cracks spiderwebbed beneath his fingers. "You presume much," he said, his voice barely audible. "I presume nothing. I speak what I see. Princess Isolde writes about you every day. She documents the minutes you spend in the throne room, the times you pass her in corridors, the specific way you look away when your eyes accidentally meet hers. She's created an entire system to measure her father's distance because it's the only control she has over pain she doesn't understand. Elena pulled the diary from her cloak. Read it. Read what your daughter thinks when she believes no one is listening. Theron stared at the worn leather. Where did you get this? From beneath her mattress. It's the only place she can be honest. She loves you desperately, completely. And she's convinced this love is unwanted. That she's the reminder of everything you lost rather than everything you still have. I can't. His voice cracked, first emotion Elena had heard. You don't understand, then help me understand. Because from where I stand, you're punishing a child for surviving her mother's death. The words hung like blades. Theron's hand shot out, snatched the diary, fingers trembling. Get out, he whispered. Before I do something we'll both regret. Elena went. But descending the stairs, she heard something that made her pause, a sound so unexpected she almost thought she'd imagined it. The vampire king who hadn't wept in 400 years was crying. Act 2, The Crumbling Walls, 15:00-35:00, The Breaking Point ***, 3 days of terrible silence. Elena continued caring for Isolde, guilt gnawing constantly. She'd violated the princess's privacy, weaponized her most vulnerable thoughts. At night, she wondered if she'd made everything worse. Isolde noticed. Children always did. Those two knowing violet eyes watched Elena, small hand occasionally reaching out as if asking questions she couldn't voice. On the 4th day, Lady Cassia summoned her to the king's study. Elena's heart hammered. She'd be dismissed. Exiled. The diary had crossed uncrossable lines. She entered to find Theron by the window, back to her. The diary sat on his desk, open to a page marked with black ribbon. Close the door, he said without turning. Elena obeyed. I've been reading, Theron continued, voice eerily controlled. 3 days. Nothing but reading my daughter's thoughts. All 214 entries. Every observation, every hope, every private moment she believed would remain private. Your Majesty, do you know what the last entry says? He turned, and Elena's breath caught. He looked devastated. Eyes red-rimmed, hair disheveled. Would you like me to read it? Elena shook her head, but he picked up the diary anyway. Elena has been quiet for 3 days. I think I did something wrong again. Maybe I smiled too much. Father says I'm too needy sometimes. Well, he doesn't say it to me. But I heard him tell Lady Cassia once. Theron's hands shook. I'm practicing being less needy. Teaching myself to need nothing at all. Then maybe everyone will stop looking tired around me. Then maybe Father will. He stopped, voice breaking. She didn't finish. Just left it hanging, as if she couldn't even imagine an ending where I love her. Your Majesty, I heard her mother die screaming. Words erupted like violence. I held Celeste while she bled out and I couldn't stop it. Couldn't save her. 300 years old, power enough to level kingdoms, and I couldn't save the one person who mattered. He moved closer, raw anguish in his face. When they put Isolde in my arms, all I felt was rage. This creature had killed my wife. And I looked at her, at those violet eyes that were Celeste's eyes, and I wanted to. He stopped, horrified. I gave her to the nurses and walked away. Elena's throat tightened with unexpected sympathy. It got easier to stay away. Every month, every year. I told myself she was better off without me. That my grief would poison her. That providing was enough. His laugh was bitter. I read her diary and realized I've been starving my own child while convincing myself I was protecting her. It's not too late, isn't it? How do I face her after this? What kind of father am I? A broken one, Elena said honestly. But broken can heal if you let it. She won't forgive me. She will. Because she's been waiting for you to come back since the day you left. Theron sank into his chair. I don't know how to be a father. I've forgotten how to be anything but a king. Then start with being present. Come to her chambers. Sit with her. She'll pull away. She's documented every minute you've spent in a room with her. She'll want it. She's always wanted it. Theron stared at the diary, then stood with movements that seemed to cost everything. Take me to her. The reunion they walked in silence. Servants scattered. Lady Kasha appeared, saw Theron heading toward the eastern tower, and her hand flew to her mouth before she stepped aside. The door to Isolde's chambers had never seemed so heavy. Theron stood before it, hand raised to knock, frozen. What if she's afraid of me? Then you'll earn her trust back. Elena opened the door. But you'll do it here. Inside, Isolde sat by her window, book in lap. She didn't turn at the sound, couldn't hear, but something made her look up. Perhaps light change, or vibration of footsteps. Her eyes met her father's. Every emotion from the diary flooded her face. And beneath it all, desperate, aching longing. Theron took one step forward. Another. His throat worked as if he wanted to speak but had forgotten how. Isolde slid from her chair, book tumbling. Her small hands twisted in her dress, whole body tense, expecting rejection. Then Theron did something Elena hadn't seen in 5 weeks. He knelt. The vampire king knelt on his daughter's chamber floor and opened his arms. 3 heartbeats. Nothing. Isolde stared, disbelieving. Then, dam-breaking, she ran. She crashed into him hard enough to knock a human backward, small arms wrapping his neck with desperate strength. Silent sobs racked her tiny body, face buried in his shoulder. Theron gathered her close, one hand cradling her head, the other around her back. He was shaking. The most powerful vampire in 5 kingdoms trembled as he held his daughter for the first time in years. I'm sorry, he whispered, though Isolde couldn't hear. I'm so sorry, little star. Elena backed toward the door, but Theron's voice stopped her. Sit, please. I don't know how to do this alone. Elena sat in the corner. Watched as Theron held his daughter while she cried. Watched as he pulled back to look at her face, thumbs wiping tears. Watched as Isolde's hands came up tentatively to touch his cheeks, verifying he was real. Theron's own tears fell freely. He pressed his forehead to Isolde's, eyes closed. For a moment they simply breathed together. Isolde pulled back and began signing. Quick, desperate. Elena recognized some gestures from their private language. She's asking why you came, Elena translated softly. She wants to know if she did something right, or if you're here to tell her goodbye. Theron's face crumpled. Neither, sweetheart. I came because I've been gone too long. Isolde's hands moved again. She says she can be less trouble. She promises she can be quiet and small and easy. No. Theron caught Isolde's hands in his. No, Star. You've never been trouble. I was. I am. He looked helplessly at Elena. How do I tell her? Start with the truth, and I'll help her understand. Theron began to speak, and Elena translated into their improvised language. He told her about Celeste. About the love that consumed him, the bond that made him whole, the grief that shattered him. How holding Isolde that first day felt like holding his heart outside his body. How terror of loving her that much sent him running. I convinced myself you'd be safer without me, he said, voice breaking. That my love would poison you. But I was wrong. True. And I can never give back the years I stole. Isolde listened, eyes never leaving her father's face. When he finished, she was quiet. Then her hands moved slowly, carefully. Elena's voice caught translating. She says she's not angry. She says she understands about missing someone so much it hurts. She's missed you that way. Theron pulled Isolde close again, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I'm here now. I'm here and I'm not leaving. Never again. They stayed as afternoon light shifted, shadows lengthened, bells marked time's passage. Father and daughter, reconnecting through touch and presence and slow mending of what had been broken. Finally, Isolde pulled back, tugged her father's sleeve, gestured toward the floor, invitation to sit. Theron settled onto carpet, looking uncertain. Isolde immediately crawled into his lap, claiming space she'd been denied too long. She reached for Elena, signing. She wants the music box, Elena explained, retrieving it and winding the key. Isolde took it carefully, placed her father's hand on top, covered it with her own. The melody played, inaudible to her but felt through vibration. She closed her eyes with a small smile. Theron looked at Elena with wonder. She can feel it? It's how we communicate. When words fail, vibration works. Show me. Teach me. I want to learn her language. Learning to speak the next weeks transformed the Eastern Tower from prison to sanctuary. Theron cleared his schedule, shocking the court, and spent every hour with Isolde. Elena taught him their signs, showed him communication through touch and gesture. He was quick, desperate to make up for lost time. They established new rituals. Every morning, breakfast together. He'd hold her, tell stories about her mother, hands moving in signs he was learning while Elena translated. Isolde blossomed. Smiles came frequently. She explored beyond her chambers, holding her father's hand as he walked her through the palace. Servants who'd only seen the silent princess, hidden away, were shocked to see her laughing soundlessly as Theron lifted her to examine paintings she'd never been shown. But it wasn't all easy. 9 years of distance couldn't be erased in weeks. Isolde would flinch if Theron approached too suddenly. She'd retreat to her window, overwhelmed. Times when Theron's guilt would freeze him. Elena guided them through it. Taught Theron patience when Isolde needed space, to stay present even when silence felt uncomfortable. Taught Isolde that her father's presence was permanent, not temporary. 3 weeks after reunion, Theron appeared at Elena's door. She'd been given better quarters, near the royal chambers, an honor that scandalized the household. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "You risked everything to show me that diary. You had no reason to care." But Elena was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "When I was 8, she said finally, my mother died. She'd been sick for years, and my father loved her so much that when she passed, he couldn't look at me. Every time he saw my face, he saw hers. Every time I smiled, he remembered her smile. It was too painful." Theron's expression shifted to understanding. "He didn't mean to be cruel," Elena continued. "He fed me, clothed me, made sure I had what I needed. But he couldn't be present. Couldn't be a father. And I spent years thinking I'd killed my mother somehow, that my existence was the problem. Elena, I was 15 when he finally broke down and told me the truth. That he'd loved her so much he didn't know how to survive without her. That looking at me hurt because I was the last piece of her he had left, and he was terrified of losing me too." She met Theron's eyes. "By then we'd lost so many years. We got them back eventually, but the scars remained. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just don't make my father's mistakes." Elena's voice softened. "I saw Isolde's diary and I saw myself at 8 years old, wondering what I'd done to deserve being invisible. I couldn't walk away from that, even if it cost me everything." Theron reached out, took Elena's hand. Cool skin, gentle grip. "Thank you for saving my daughter. For saving me." "I didn't save anyone. I just reminded you what you already knew. Call me Theron. You've earned that right." Over the following weeks, Elena watched father and daughter forge a new relationship. Theron read from Isolde's diary, with her permission this time, and learned about all the small moments he'd missed. Isolde's first word, written, not spoken, her favorite foods, her secret love of astronomy that no one had known to nurture. He made up for it ferociously. Within a month, he'd commissioned a telescope for the Eastern Tower. Hired an astronomer to teach Isolde about stars through charts and models she could touch. Learned to sign complex concepts so he could discuss constellations and galaxies with his daughter. The court watched this transformation with varying reactions. Some nobles were touched, pleased to see their king emerging from his grief. Others whispered that he was neglecting his duties, that a vampire king shouldn't be governed by sentiment. Lady Kasia fell firmly into the first camp. "I've served this household for 80 years, she told Elena one afternoon. "Never have I seen him this alive. You've given him back his humanity." "He always had it," Elena replied. "He just forgot where he'd buried it." But not everyone was pleased. Lord Sereth, one of the senior council members, cornered Elena one evening in the corridor. "You've done something dangerous," he said without preamble. His eyes were cold, calculating. The king is distracted. Vulnerable. Enemies will take note. The king is healing, Elena corrected. There's a difference. Healing is weakness in our world. King Theron rules because he's feared. Because he's ruthless. A king who weeps over his daughter's diary is not a king who inspires terror. Perhaps terror isn't the only form of strength. Lord Sereth smiled thinly. You're human. You wouldn't understand our politics. But know this, you've set events in motion that may have consequences beyond your understanding. He left before Elena could respond, but his words lingered like frost. The father's journey over months, Theron read from Isolde's diary, with her permission, learning all he'd missed. Her first written word, favorite foods, secret love of astronomy no one had nurtured. He made up for it ferociously. Within a month he'd commissioned a telescope for the Eastern Tower, hired an astronomer, learned complex signs to discuss constellations with his daughter. The court watched with mixed reactions. Some were touched. Others whispered he was neglecting duties, that sentiment shouldn't govern a vampire king. Lady Cassia supported him. I've served this household 80 years. Never seen him this alive. You gave him back his humanity. He always had it. He just forgot where he'd buried it. But not everyone was pleased. Lord Sereth cornered Elena one evening. You've done something dangerous. The king is distracted. Vulnerable. Enemies will take note. The king is healing. There's a difference. Healing is weakness in our world. King Theron rules because he's feared. A king who weeps over his daughter's diary doesn't inspire terror. Perhaps terror isn't the only form of strength. Sereth smiled thinly. You're human. You wouldn't understand our politics. But know this, you've set events in motion with consequences beyond your understanding. 6 weeks after finding the diary, Theron made an announcement that shocked the entire court. I'm abdicating temporarily. For 6 months, I'll step back from active rule. Lord Theron will serve as regent. I need time to be a father without a kingdom's weight on my shoulders. The council erupted. Vampire kings didn't abdicate, didn't choose family over duty. You'll destroy everything we've built, Lord Sereth argued. Our enemies will see weakness. Let them try. Theron's voice carried absolute authority despite emotion. I've spent 9 years building a kingdom while neglecting the one thing that mattered. I won't make that mistake again. Your Majesty, the decision is made. Lord Theron has my full confidence. I've already prepared the necessary documents. That evening, Isolde wrote Theron a letter, first time she'd communicated directly in writing. Elena found them in the morning, Theron asleep in a chair beside Isolde's bed, tear-stained page clutched in his hand. Elena carefully extracted the letter. Dear Father, Elena says I should tell you what I'm feeling instead of writing in my diary where no one can hear. So here is what I'm feeling I love you. I've always loved you, even when I thought you couldn't love me back. And now that you're here, I'm afraid to love you too much because what if you leave again? But Elena says fear is part of healing. That I have to risk being hurt to find out if I can be safe. So I'm risking it. I'm choosing to believe you'll stay. I still have bad dreams. I still sometimes think I'm too broken to be loved properly. But when I wake up and you're sleeping in the chair beside my bed, I remember that maybe I was never broken. Maybe I was just waiting. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for reading my diary even though I never meant anyone to see it. Thank you for not being too late. Love. Isolde. Elena's hands trembled. In the chair, Theron's eyes opened. She thinks she's broken still, after everything. She's healing. That letter is proof. She's learning to trust again. The mother's shadow. 5 months into Theron's abdication, Elena discovered sealed trunk in archives. It bore Celeste's name in faded gold. Inside were journals. Dozens, all in Celeste's flowing script. Elena lifted one, dated to Isolde's birth year. He's terrified. Theron won't say it, but I feel it through our bond. Healers say I may not survive. He's already planning what he'll do if he loses me. Already building walls around his heart. I told him tonight he needs to promise me something. If I die, he has to love our daughter. Be present even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. Because pain means you're still alive, still capable of feeling. Asterisk asterisk he promised. But I saw the lie in his eyes. He thinks he can honor me by protecting our child from distance, keeping his grief separate. He doesn't understand that absence isn't protection, it's abandonment. Asterisk asterisk I've written him a letter. Sealed, stored with these journals. I've instructed my handmaiden to give it to him when our daughter turns 9, old enough to need her father desperately, young enough that it's not too late. Asterisk asterisk I don't know if he'll read it. But even from beyond death, I have to try to save him from himself. Asterisk Elena's heart raced. The letter. There was a letter from Celeste, meant for delivery when Isolde turned 9. That had been 6 months ago. She dug frantically, finding a sealed envelope at the bottom. Unopened. Never delivered. Elena found Lady Cassia. Did you know about Celeste's letter? Lady Cassia's face went ashen. The 9-year letter. By the gods, I forgot. When the princess turned 9, 3 nannies quit in the same month, the northern border crisis. It slipped my mind entirely. This was supposed to be delivered to King Theron 6 months ago. Oh no. Celeste made me promise. I meant it. But the timing was chaotic and then, we need to give it to him now. Elena found Theron in the observatory with Isolde, examining star charts. Theron, I need to speak with you. Privately. Something in her tone made him stand immediately. He signed to Isolde he'd return soon, kissed her forehead, and followed Elena. What's wrong? Elena held out the letter. This is from Celeste. She wrote it before she died, asked Lady Cassia to give it to you when Isolde turned 9. It was never delivered. Color drained from Theron's face. His hands trembled taking the envelope, staring at his dead wife's handwriting like seeing a ghost. I can't. Not now. Not when I've finally. You have to. Whatever she wanted to tell you, it's waited 9 years. She deserves to be heard. Theron's fingers traced Celeste's name. Then, with movements costing everything, he broke the seal. The letter was 2 pages. Theron read in silence, and Elena watched his expression cycle through shock, grief, anger, finally broken understanding. When he finished, he handed it to Elena wordlessly. My beloved Theron, asterisk if you're reading this, I'm gone, and our daughter has reached her 9th year. I hope she's thriving. I hope she has your strength and my stubbornness. I hope you've loved her every day since I left. Asterisk asterisk but knowing you as I do, I suspect that's not the case. I suspect you've been exactly as brave and exactly as foolish as I always knew you'd be. You've protected her by staying away. You've honored my memory by denying her yours. Asterisk asterisk I'm writing this to tell you something you need to hear. Stop. Asterisk asterisk stop punishing our daughter for surviving my death. Stop trying to protect her from your grief. Stop believing that love is dangerous just because loss is painful. Asterisk asterisk I'm not angry with you, my heart. I understand. Loving someone who will one day die is terrifying when you're immortal. But that fear doesn't justify absence. It doesn't excuse choosing duty over presence. Asterisk asterisk our daughter needs you. Not your money or your protection or your kingdom. She needs her father, flawed and grieving and scared, but present. Because a present, imperfect father is worth more than an absent, perfect one. Asterisk asterisk I see you standing at my grave, making promises you'll never keep. I see you swearing to honor me by keeping Isolde safe from the pain of loving you. But that's not what I want. That's never been what I want. Asterisk asterisk I want you to love her. I want you to sit with her when she's sad and celebrate her when she's joyful and be the one constant in her life that never wavers. I want you to tell her about me, not the sanitized version you think. Will hurt less, but the truth. The messiness, the laughter, the way we loved each other so fiercely it frightened us both. Asterisk asterisk I want you to be alive again. Not just surviving. Not just ruling. Living. Asterisk asterisk and if you can't do it for me, if you can't do it for Isolde, then do it for yourself. Because you deserve to feel joy again. You deserve to experience love that doesn't end in loss. Asterisk asterisk please, Theron. Please don't wait until it's too late. Our daughter is 9 now. You still have time. But time has a way of slipping through even immortal fingers. Asterisk asterisk come back. Be her father. Let yourself be love. Asterisk asterisk I'm waiting for you on the other side, whenever you're ready to join me. But until then live. Really truly live. Asterisk forever yours, Celeste. Theron slumped against the wall, the letter falling from his numb fingers. His face was wet with tears. She knew, he whispered. She knew exactly what I'd do. And she tried to stop me. It's not too late, Elena said. Theron, it's not, 9 years. His voice broke. I wasted 9 years. 9 years Isolde spent thinking I didn't love her, 9 years of silence and distance. And Celeste warned me. She saw this coming and I did it anyway. You didn't know, I should have known. Theron pressed his palms to his eyes. She died asking me to love our daughter, and I failed her. I failed them both. Elena picked up the letter carefully. Then don't fail them anymore. Celeste gave you this message because she believed you could change. Believed it was never too late. Prove her right. Theron looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. How? Start by showing Isolde this letter. Let her see that her mother wanted you two together. That this separation was never what Celeste intended. She'll hate me more. She'll know her mother asked me to be present and I chose not to be. Or, Elena said gently, she'll understand that grief makes people do impossible things. And that you're finally honoring Celeste's wish by choosing to stay. #ACT3, the new beginning, 42:00-60:00. The letter shared that evening, Theron gathered his courage and returned to the observatory. Isolde looked up from her star charts, signing, You were gone a long time. Everything okay? Theron signed back slowly, I have something to show you. Something from your mother. Isolde's eyes widened. She set down her tools and moved closer, her attention completely focused on her father. Theron pulled out the letter, smoothing the pages that he'd already read a dozen more times. Then he realized, Isolde couldn't hear him read it aloud. He'd have to translate it into signs or write it out or... Elena appeared in the doorway, as if sensing she was needed. Would you like me to translate? Theron nodded gratefully. So they sat together, Theron, Isolde, and Elena, while Elena read Celeste's letter aloud and signed the words simultaneously. Isolde's face transformed as she absorbed her mother's message. Shock gave way to understanding, understanding to sadness, sadness to something like hope. When Elena finished, Isolde was crying. But her hands moved immediately. Mother wanted us together? Yes, Theron signed back, his own tears flowing freely. She begged me to be your father. And I failed her. I'm so sorry, Star. I'm so deeply sorry. Isolde shook her head. Her hands formed careful words. You came back. That's what matters. Mother said it wasn't too late. She was right. I wasted so much time, then don't waste more. Isolde's signs were fierce. Stop apologizing. Start staying. Theron pulled her into his arms, and they cried together, for the mother they'd both lost, for the years they'd missed, for the pain that had kept them apart, but also for the healing that had finally begun. Elena quietly left them alone, but as she reached the door, Isolde called her back with a gesture. The princess signed something, and Theron translated aloud. She says thank you. For breaking the rules and showing me her diary. For forcing me to see what I was doing. His voice caught. She says you saved us both. I just reminded you what you already knew, Elena replied. The same words she'd spoken months ago, but they felt different now. Heavier with meaning. The court's challenge news of Celeste's letter spread through the court like wildfire. Lord Sereth used it as ammunition. The king is being manipulated, he declared during a council session that Theron attended reluctantly. First a human nanny convinces him to read private diaries. Now a dead queen's letter appears conveniently, further justifying his abdication. How much longer will we allow sentiment to govern our kingdom? Queen Celeste's letter was sealed for 9 years, Lady Cassia responded icily. No manipulation was involved except my own forgetfulness in delivering it. Then the question remains, when will our king return to actual rule? It's been 5 months. The regency was supposed to be temporary. All eyes turned to Theron. He sat at the head of the table, Isolde beside him in a specially made chair. He'd started bringing her to court sessions, teaching her about governance. She couldn't hear the debates, but she watched faces, learned politics through observation. "I'll return when I'm ready," Theron said quietly. "Not before." "And when will that be?" "When our enemies have carved up our territories because our king is too busy playing father." "Being a father isn't playing." Theron's voice dropped to a dangerous level. "And if you question my commitment to this kingdom again, Lord Sereth, you'll find yourself without a seat at this table." "Your Majesty, with respect." "There is no respect in your tone." Theron stood, and his presence filled the chamber. "I have ruled this kingdom for 300 years. I have negotiated treaties, won wars, expanded our territories beyond what any king before me achieved. I have earned the right to take 6 months to heal my relationship with my daughter." "Of course, Your Majesty. I only meant, you meant to undermine my authority by questioning my priorities. Consider this your only warning." The council session ended in tense silence. But as they filed out, Elena heard whispers. Not all disapproving. Some nobles were beginning to understand. Beginning to see that a king who could love fiercely might also rule with wisdom. That night, Theron came to Elena's chambers. He looked exhausted. "They're right," he said without preamble. "I can't abdicate forever. At some point I need to resume full duties." "Are you ready?" "I don't know." He sank into a chair. "I thought 6 months would be enough. But every day I spend with Isolde, I discover more I've missed. More I need to make up for. It feels impossible to balance, being a king and being a father." "It is impossible," Elena said honestly. "You'll never do both perfectly. But you can do both well enough." "How?" "By bringing them together instead of keeping them separate. Isolde is your heir, Theron. Teach her to rule while you're being her father. Let her see what leadership looks like. Make her part of your kingdom instead of separate from it." Theron was quiet for a long moment. "She's 9 years old. She's brilliant, observant, and has been studying people her entire life. She's more ready than you think. The court would never accept a deaf queen. The court said the same thing about a human nanny having influence over the king. Look where we are now." Theron laughed despite himself. "You're dangerous, Elena. You make impossible things seem reasonable. That's why you keep me around." But his expression grew serious. "Is that the only reason?" The question hung between them, weighted with implications Elena wasn't sure she understood. Before she could respond, a knock interrupted them. Lady Kasha entered, her face pale. "Your Majesty, we have a situation. Northern border scouts report an army approaching. They're flying Lord Draven's banner." Theron was on his feet instantly. "Draven? He hasn't moved against us in 50 years. But the scouts say..." Lady Kasha hesitated. "They say he's demanding an audience. He wants to negotiate a marriage alliance." "I'm not interested in..." "Between Lord Draven's son and Princess Isolde." The temperature in the room plummeted. Theron's eyes flashed crimson. "Absolutely not. Your Majesty, if we refuse, he'll consider it an act of hostility. He has 3 legions camped at our border. This could mean war." "Then war it is." Theron moved toward the door. "I'll send our answer at dawn. Draven can take his marriage proposal and wait." Elena's voice stopped him. "Think strategically. Why would Draven suddenly want an alliance with Isolde? Because he's heard about my abdication. He thinks I'm weak. Or," Elena suggested slowly, "he's heard that you're finally paying attention to your daughter. That she's not hidden away anymore. That she might actually become an heir worth claiming." Theron paused. "You think this is about succession?" "I think Draven sees an opportunity. A deaf princess without her father's protection would be easy to control. But a deaf princess with her father's fierce love? That's a threat. He wants to neutralize her by binding her to his family. He's not getting anywhere near her." "I agree. But you need to handle this carefully. If you reject the proposal too harshly, he'll use it as justification for war. And war means Isolde in danger. Theron's jaw clenched. Of course. Everything comes back to protecting her. So protect her smartly, Elena said. Meet with Draven. Here's terms. Then explain, politely but firmly, that Isolde is in training to rule, that she needs years of preparation before any marriage discussions can begin. Make it about her future, not his pride. And if he doesn't accept that, then you'll have bought time to prepare for the war he was planning anyway. Theron studied Elena with something like awe. You should be on my council. I'm human. Your council would revolt. They're already revolting. He smiled slightly. What's a little more chaos? The visitor 3 days later, Lord Draven arrived. He brought his son Caius, a vampire youth of 25 who looked bored. Theron received them with full ceremony. Isolde sat beside him, Elena behind translating when needed. King Theron, Draven began. Thank you for receiving us. I've come to discuss our kingdom's future. The future is not in question. Our borders are stable. What precisely did you wish to discuss? Succession. You've only one heir, and she's uniquely positioned. My son Caius would make an excellent consort. United, our houses would be unstoppable. Princess Isolde is 9 years old. I'm proposing betrothal, not immediate union. We'd wait until she reaches maturity, 17 or 18. Theron's fingers tightened. And what does Princess Isolde gain? Protection. Stability. A husband who could compensate for her limitations. The hall went deathly silent. Her limitations, Theron repeated, voice dangerously soft. Come now, your majesty. The girl is deaf. She'll never command armies, never inspire through speech. She needs someone handling those responsibilities. I see. Theron stood, presence filling the hall. Let me tell you what my daughter doesn't need. She doesn't need someone compensating for abilities you're too limited to perceive. She doesn't need protection from men who see deafness as weakness. And she certainly doesn't need a consort who views her as political pawn. Your Majesty, Princess Isolde is in training to rule this kingdom. She studies governance, diplomacy, leadership. In 8 years, she'll be more prepared than most heirs with twice her advantages. Draven's smile tightened. Surely you don't intend for a deaf girl to actually rule? I intend for my brilliant daughter to become everything she's meant to be. With or without your approval. Isolde tugged Elena's sleeve, signing. Elena translated. The princess asks what's being discussed. Theron knelt, signing as he spoke. Lord Draven asked if you'd marry his son when you grow up. I'm telling him no. You'll make your own choices when the time comes. Isolde signed back. Elena translated with amusement. She says Lord Draven's son looks boring and she'd rather study stars. The hall erupted in laughter. Draven's face reddened. You mock me before my men? My daughter expressed her opinion. I'm simply respecting it. Now, you have your answer. Was there anything else? Draven's hand moved to his sword, then fell away, remembering the 200 guards lining walls. You're making a mistake. A weak heir will destroy this kingdom. My heir is many things, Lord Draven. Weak isn't one of them. After Draven departed, the court buzzed. Word would spread. The deaf princess was being championed. The healing complete. 6 months became 7. 7 became 8. Theron gradually resumed duties, never at cost of time with Isolde. He brought her to councils, taught her to observe and analyze. She proved brilliant. Her deafness forced her to be more observant, reading body language, noticing micro-expressions, understanding subtext. She began advising her father on which nobles could be trusted based solely on how they carried themselves. The court slowly accepted her. Some from respect, others because they realized Theron's commitment was absolute. Isolde blossomed. Smiled constantly now, laughed soundlessly. She still had her diary, but entries changed. Father taught me about trade negotiations today. He was patient when I didn't understand. I'm learning. Elena and I developed new sign language for court. Father made it mandatory for council members. They learn my language. I had a nightmare. But father was there when I woke, sleeping in the chair like he does sometimes. I didn't feel alone. Asterisk asterisk I haven't written about feeling broken in 3 months. Asterisk 1 year after Elena found the diary, Theron held a ceremony. He officially named Elena as Isolde's guardian advisor, a newly created position with council seat and authority over the princess's education and welfare. This woman saved my daughter's life by saving mine, Theron announced to assembled court. She did what 46 trained nannies could not, she made me see what I'd become. Elena stood beside Isolde, overwhelmed. The princess signed proudly, "My family." Later that night, after celebrations ended and Isolde had gone to bed, Theron found Elena in the gardens. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple silver with violet stone matching Isolde's eyes. "This isn't a proposal. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But I want you to know what you've become to me. To us. Your family, Elena. And when the time is right, if you'll have me, I'd like you to be more than that." Elena looked at the ring, then at this vampire king who'd learned to cry again, to love again, to be vulnerable again. "Ask me again in a year. Let Isolde have you to herself a bit longer. She's waited long enough." Theron smiled. A real smile, full of warmth and hope. "A year then. A year." #### closing scene, 60:00 end. 2 years later, the kingdom gathered for unprecedented ceremony. Princess Isolde, now 11, stood before the court to receive her heir's coronation, symbolic acknowledgement she was being groomed to rule. Normally this happened at 16. But Theron had petitioned the council and they'd agreed. Isolde wore midnight blue, Elena on one side, Theron on the other. The court watched as their king placed a smaller crown on his daughter's head, not the full crown of rule, but the circlet of succession. "Princess Isolde Theron Nightborn," Theron announced, signing as he spoke, "I name you my heir and future queen. You will learn our ways, serve our people, and one day lead with wisdom and compassion." Isolde signed her response, Elena translating, "I accept this responsibility. I will learn. I will serve. And I will never forget that being different isn't being less." The court erupted in applause, genuine celebration. The deaf princess had won them through persistence, intelligence, and fierce love of a father who'd finally learned to show it. That night, Isolde pulled out her diary for the last time. She wrote one final entry. "This will be my last entry. Not because I'm abandoning it, but because I don't need it the same way anymore. I started writing because I was alone. Because I needed somewhere for thoughts no one would hear. But I'm not alone now. I have father. I have Elena. I have a kingdom learning to listen to silence. I keep this diary as reminder of where I was. Of how far I've come. Of the girl who believed herself broken and the family who proved her wrong. If anyone ever reads this, someone lonely, scared, someone who feels too different to be loved, know this, you're not broken. You're just waiting for someone brave enough to see you clearly. And when they finally do, everything changes. With hope, Isolde she closed the diary, placed it on her shelf, spine out where anyone could see. No more hiding. No more shame. Just a record of healing, visible to anyone who needed proof that broken things could mend. In the doorway, Theron and Elena watched. He'd asked his question again that morning, and she'd finally said yes. They'd marry quietly in a month. But that was future. This was now. "She's going to be an incredible queen," Elena whispered. "She already is," Theron replied, pulling her close. "Thanks to you. Thanks to both of us. And thanks to a diary that forced us to hear what we'd been ignoring." They left Isolde to her star charts and music box and hard-won peace. The vampire king had finally stopped running from his heart. And in doing so, he'd saved not just his daughter, but himself.